I went to the flea market one Saturday, not looking for anything particular, but open to buying anything interesting. I'm that way about junk. If it's weird or theoretically useful, having 5 copper frying pans sitting idle for need of retinning doesn't mean I won't buy another if it's just $1. Or if it might impress people I don't even care about, then I can't seem to resist. So I took my time in the crammed stalls, overwhelmed by the thousands of things I might buy, regarding them as orphans in the grip of uncaring guardians. I had just fought my way out of an electronics stall, having barely escaped buying an 8-track player and a Betamax VCR, when a man called to me from the very next booth. "Hey, mister, you look like a man who appreciates the finer things in life," he said, an arm gesturing as if to sweep me in, like a born huckster. He had some basis for his guess, as I wore a navy blazer and a button-up shirt, tie omitted so I wouldn't look like a millionaire and be gouged appropriately. I didn't know how to answer, though, and first took in his shop. It was clothes floor to ceiling. Clothes hanging, folded flat, dumped in piles on the floor, clothes old and new, of every color and style and fabric, clothes made for men and women and children, and possibly for dogs and cats, to judge from certain knit sweaters with at least 5 sleeves. There were tottering stacks of hats and cardboard boxes heaped with shoes that ranged from the curiously new to the old and mildewed. It would be difficult to make my way around. "Why don't you come in and have a look?" the man asked. "I want to show you something I know you'll like." I figured he'd been right about me so far, so I picked my way across the cluttered floor. By the time I looked up again, he had an old overcoat in hand and was grinning at me with what I felt was excessive confidence in making a sale. The coat was camel, that is in color at least, and looked well preserved. I was no expert, but the style seemed quite old, and it was definitely tasteful and conservative. I rather liked it. "Feel that cloth," he encouraged. "Ain't that first class? That's real Persian lamb's wool. They don't make 'em like that no more." I touched his sleeve tentatively, worried that too much interest would make him think we had a deal, even before I knew the price. "I'll let you in on something," he said with a conspiratorial lurch of his head. "I found this when I was clearing out Clark Gable's storage unit." "Huh?" "Yeah, I bid $50 on it and got his clothes from Gone with the Wind and a set of his false teeth, too." I looked the man in the eye, concerned first of all to make sure he wasn't dangerously crazy. Then I started checking the coat more closely. "It's his size," the man said, as if that was proof. He pointed to a stain on the label. "And see that? That's Carole Lombard's lipstick." "I don't think so. It looks like barbecue sauce." "Well, look at this sleeve here. You see the little holes? That's where ash fell off his cigarettes. That Clark Gable smoked like a furnace." "There were some tiny holes there." "Well, this is wool," I said. I tried to temper my skepticism with politeness. "Wool wouldn't burn that easily. I believe those are moth holes." He was quiet for a moment, rubbing the sleeve as if deep in thought. Then he did that lurch of the head again. "Well, I'll tell you the truth. It was owned by Victor Mature." I didn't see why I should believe this either. Granted, it was a step or two down from Clark Gable, Hollywood legend, to Mature, the star of innumerable second-rate 1950s biblical epics. I looked at the man, waiting for him to offer some evidence. Perhaps he would pull a Middle Eastern robe from the piles of clothes around us and claim to have found it and the overcoat in Mature's storage unit. Instead, my stare seemed to worry him. "Okay," he said, patting the air with a hand. "I know I've been dressing it up a bit, but it did belong to Manton Moreland. Look at the..." "Who?" "Manton Moreland. He was one of the first blacks to get starring roles in Hollywood films. Pretty big in the 40s. Lots of zombie comedies and such. Anyway, you can tell it's his by..." I just don't believe it. Thanks, though. I let go of the coat and prepared to thread my way around the piles and boxes again. All right, I'm sorry. He seemed truly contrite, perhaps even ashamed. He put a hand to his forehead as if in pain. Look, I'll level with you. God's honest truth. I got it from this old stagehand. I forget his name. Anyway, he once spent the night with the hairdresser of Claudette Colbert, and he said, I must have been giving him a skeptical look again, despite my best effort to smile and nod, because he stopped, plunged a hand into an outer pocket of the coat, and triumphantly pulled out a hairbrush. See, he said, holding it too close to my face. See, that's Claudette Colbert's hair in that brush. I didn't dignify this with an answer. The brush looked like something from Walmart. That hair's worth $1,000, he said, turning the brush to give me a better look. I stepped back, smiling grimly. I liked the coat, but surely the price would be too high as long as it remained a Hollywood relic. The man lurched his head at me yet again, pushing the coat against me. Look it over, he urged. I can tell you want it. I was reluctant, for I knew from bitter flea market experience what would happen. He'd ask me to make an offer. I would offer what seemed reasonable to me for an old coat with moth holes and barbecue stains, and he would scream bloody murder about my trying to cheat him. I took the coat and searched inside it, hoping for a torn lining or armpit stains, anything that would excuse my handing it back to him. Unfortunately, it was clean inside and not too worn. Then I saw a tag sewn inside. Hey, I said with the pent-up indignation of being assumed a fool with all the film star tales. This says assembled in Taiwan and 10% polyester. The man didn't flinch. That was the newfangled fiber back then. All the rage. Cecil B. DeMille had one that was 100%. And remember that scene in Sunset Boulevard where William Holden is trying on a camel hair coat? That wasn't camel hair. That was this very coat. I let out a sigh. I'll give you $5 for it. Take it off my hands. The shock of not being berated as a crook or a miser was so great I almost gave him 10. Then I considered how that extra 5 would buy several old Fire King coffee mugs from the lady with the vintage glass and china stall in the next building, and merely passed him a Lincoln as agreed. He shook my hand, and at last I was able to escape the stall, coat over an arm. But as I walked away, he called after me. Hey! I turned, prepared for the worst. Hey, mister! Just the other night on TV, I saw George Clooney wearing one just like it. I waved and hurried on, eager to get away before he tried to sell me Dean Martin's hat or Fred Astaire's worn-out dancing shoes.